Resume is a heavyweight, yeah. Put it on my back, give me everything, yeah. I need everything, I need all of everything, yeah. You a simp, you ain't in my lane, you a lame. Bitch, get out my way, out my way, out my way, out my way.
How you doing? This is Sony's newest release, the RX0 Mark II. I gotta admit, this is the first release from Sony in a long time, maybe ever, that I'm kind of like right down the middle about. I'm not too sure how I feel about it. There are some things that I absolutely love, and there are some things that I kind of don't love. Let's talk about it. Give me that freaking intro. So the things that I love and the things that I don't love about the RX0 Mark II are pretty much the same across the board for everybody that's reviewed this thing so far. 1-inch sensor on a camera this small, love it. Durability, thumbs up. Flip screen, thank you. Mic jack, I'm digging it. We're on the right track here, Sony. Good colors, a few of Sony's gammas to choose from. It's kind of like a tiny miniature little RX100, but in some ways it's better. There's 4K at 100 megabits per second, which is like Sony's famous bit rate. Just a side note, I'd like to see Sony step it up to at least 200 megabits per second, just to make color grading in post a little bit easier. And there's also 120 frames at 1080p, which is also at 100 megabits per second. There's no 4K record time limit. I love that. You have interval shooting on here. There's a standard tripod mount on the bottom. There's lots of things that excite me here, people. You guys want to see something cool? Now on to the things that I really don't like about this camera. First off, you have no continuous autofocus, which really sucks. I mean, take away the flip screen, take away the mic jack, take away the crush-proof housing, take my leg. Don't take the continuous autofocus. I love all those features that I just mentioned, but continuous autofocus to me is more important when you're vlogging than any of those features. There's workarounds for every other one of those features. There ain't no workaround for continuous autofocus. So right before you start each scene, you have to set your focus point, and then that's your focus point until you stop recording, and then set a new focus point on whatever you plan on filming next, and then you have to set it and then start recording again. It's a kick in the dick. This camera is aimed heavily at vloggers. I mean, you could tell right away. But besides the flip screen and the small size and lightweight, there's not too many things about this camera that scream out vlogging to me. So the image stabilization on this thing kind of has me baffled as well. Apparently, from what I know, I haven't had much time with this at all, and really this is kind of my first time shooting with the RX0 Mark II, which we will get into. I just feel like there's some important things that you guys need to know about this camera, especially if you plan on buying it or not. So the image stabilization, it's EIS, it's built into the camera from what I understand, and it's not so great from what I've seen so far. But then what you can do is you could edit the footage from this camera in the Imaging Edge app by Sony, and then you can get really good image stabilization. It takes like a gyroscope read of your footage, and then it stabilizes it accordingly, and it looks pretty good. We'll get into some samples of that as well, but it's just weird. Why not just do, I mean, come on, you're Sony. If GoPro could do it, Sony could do it. These bugs. So another thing you guys should know about the Sony Imaging Edge app when you're editing, whether you record 1080p or 4K, any footage that gets exported from the Imaging Edge app can only be exported in 1080p or 720p. This sucks. And one more thing, if you're wondering how you edit this footage, well, there happens to be an add-on, the Sony Movie Edit add-on. So just in case you didn't know, just an extra gem for you right there. And one more good point that my buddy Camera Conspiracies brought up that makes a lot of sense. Since you have to set your focus point on this camera and then record, which basically locks your focus point. You can't really put it on a selfie stick or an extended grip or anything like that so that you can create your own wide field of view, because you can't reach the button to set the focus point on yourself if you're vlogging. It's weird. It doesn't make any sense. I don't know why they handicapped themselves. It feels like a Canon move, Sony. This is something right up Canon's alleyway, and doesn't really it seems beneath you, if I'm just being honest. Now, if you came out with a long selfie stick with these controls on the bottom of it by the handle, then we're talking. Now we're starting to fix some problems here. And the last thing before we get into some sample footage, I promise right after we talk about this, we're gonna get into some sample footage, is the price. It's the price. $700 for just the camera. The grip costs an extra $100. Microphone was like $20, $25. That is way too much. And I never complain about prices as long as I know that I'm getting great functionality out of the camera. But this, for what it is, the price is way too much. Now, if they would have gave us all those things that I previously complained about, I would have paid $700 for this, because it has a 1-inch sensor and the image quality actually does look pretty good. But for what it is and the handicaps that it has, $700 is just way too much for this. I mean, at that price point, you're only $200 away from picking up a Sony a6400. Come on. Come on. Come on, Sony. All I really rock is Sony gear for the most part. I don't know, man. I don't know. Let's get into some samples. All right, so now we're on the RX0 Mark II. So let's go into a quick test. I'm gonna just silently walk straight, and I'm gonna take that same clip and I'm gonna show you guys what it's like before we throw it in the Imaging Edge app, and then after we stabilize it inside the Imaging Edge app. I'll tell you right now, my hand is shaking around pretty good. So we'll see how well that gyroscope image stabilization does. All right, so before we forget, let's just snap a few pictures. I'm not going anywhere outside of where I am right now, so I'm just gonna shoot a couple pics around me and we'll see what we get. Alright, so let's do a quick running test, quick jogging test. I honestly don't know why us creators even do these running tests for. I mean, what are people out there vlogging and jogging? What are you, vlogging? You're a vagina. If I could just bring this to whatever distance and I could throw it on a long vlogging grip and extend it out and kind of get a wider field of view and still be in focus wherever I move it around, then really all we need is for 4K to be able to be exported from the Imaging Edge app, and we're good. I mean, yeah, it's a pain in the ass to have to import all your footage into one app, process it, export it, and then import it into your, you know, your software, Final Cut or Adobe or DaVinci, whatever you use. But I'll do it, especially if I could do it on the desktop and have it processed 10 times faster. Sure, why not? See, the zoom feature is pretty nice too. I mean, not that I would want to get this close, but you have the clear image zoom and you just hit it with the rocker right on the Sony grip. So that is kind of nice. It doesn't really deplete the quality at all. I have the small rig cage for this, which I don't have on right now. I didn't want to put it on. But one thing I would like to see with this, maybe I'll throw on a wide angle adapter onto the front of the small rig cage. So if you want to cover your ground with pretty much everything and you want to get just a stationary camera to use as a dash cam and kind of vlog while you're driving to places and then switch cameras up when you get there, this might be a great choice. Might be a great $700 choice. I'm hoping I like it. I'm hoping when I get home and I mess with this footage a little bit, I'm hoping I really like this camera, because it is such a great idea. And really, it is so many things that the GoPro isn't that I wish it was. Really, if this autofocus can stay with you no matter where you are at, the only handicap is oh boy, coppers. And they are going after somebody. They was hiding, and then they got somebody. Glad it wasn't me. Final thoughts on the Sony RX0 Mark II. The things that are good are really good. Really good. For a camera this small, it's got some really impressive features. But the things that are bad are not so great. I mean, they really are hindering, they're crippling. They've left out things that make it easy for you to be a vlogger and a creator. They've done the opposite. They've made it harder. When you're filming, specifically when you're vlogging, you don't want to have to worry about anything but what you're talking about and what you're doing. You don't want to think about autofocus. You don't want to worry about not being able to move your hand around because you might lose yourself. What I really wish Sony would do, because I tell you right now, people, all you guys that are out there saying, hopefully Sony includes continuous autofocus in a software update. That ain't happening, people. It's not happening. If it was gonna happen, it would have been released with it. They did this on purpose. But what Sony can do is possibly release a firmware update that gives us infinite focus, kind of like the GoPro, so everything's in focus. Now that's one less thing we have to worry about as creators. If you were to take the GoPro Hero 7 Black and the Sony RX0 Mark II and smush them together and force them to rape each other and have a camera baby, that would probably be the perfect vlogging camera. But this, it's still a few steps behind. But my opinion is subject to change. And when it does, and if it does, I'll be sure to let you guys know. I'm not saying I dislike this camera. I'm saying I don't know yet. If you bought a Sony RX0 Mark II, or you're thinking about buying a Sony RX0 Mark II, how do you feel about all the things that we talked about here today? Join the conversation below. Let me know all about it. The Instagram is right here. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up for me. If you are not yet subscribed, please do so. I'd appreciate it highly. And until next time, this is your boy. This is your man, Tem the Everything Man, signing out. Salute.
Raise your hands up. Raise them out.